What is up, Space Noids? In this video, we are going to cover the death of Zeon Zum Zeikum and the conspiracy that revolves around his death, as well as a brief rundown of the Zabi family. Last video, I covered the Universal Century Charter, the destruction of Laplace, and the brief events leading up to the death of Zeon Zeikum. We are starting to see the many threads that lead to the divide of Earth Federation and the Space Noids. In this video, we see the final nail in the coffin and watch the Space Noids become the Principality of Zeon. So let's get into this. The night before his speech, which he would proclaim to the world that all sides should become autonomous from Earth Federation, Zeikum was feeling stressed. This is as to no surprise, as the weight of an autonomous nation rests on his shoulders. With the widespread belief of controlism, Zeikum is at the political and ideological forefront, with a nation of space noids backing his beliefs, all while the people of Earth are nervous of spreading the ideals of controlism. Not only that, 3 years earlier, in UC 0065, there was a divide between Zeikum and the Zabi family. There isn't much said about the why or the how. It seems this is more used as a motivation for the Zabi family to take control of Side 3 and further the Principality of Zeon. If I were to guess, Zeikum saw how power-hungry the Zabi family were and decided to distance himself from them. I imagine this is also when Zeikum starts aligning himself with the Raal family. While giving his speech, Zeikum suddenly collapses. This was the speech that was to express to the Earth Federation the need for autonomy amongst the Space Noids, but specifically for Side 3. Tension was already at an all-time high. If you want to know the previous 68 years of Universal Century, check out the previous video. Side 3 created its own military force as EFF was garnering stricter control over the colonies. This was the perfect time for Zeikum to make his proclamation. Unfortunately, Zeikum never makes his speech and is pronounced dead hours later. On his deathbed, Degwin Soto Zabi claimed that Zeikum was the heir to Zeon. During their time, Degwin Zabi was Zeon's chief of staff and still a prominent member of Zeon, regardless of the divide between him and Zeikum. It has been noted that Zeikum was under plenty of stress, which led to his inevitable death. But Jim Barral notes that his death was caused by a myocardial infarction caused by poison formulated by aconite? Aconite. I'm going to say aconite. Regardless of how he died, Zeikum's death was a tool for the Zabi family to gain a foothold amongst the people of Zeon. The Zabi family is responsible for a lot of pain and destruction throughout the 1 Year War. It was through their influence that they were able to amass such an empire. But who is the Zabi family? Degwin Soto Zabi is the head of the Zabi family. Formerly the Zeon chief of staff, he now reigns as ruler of Zeon, which at the time is contained to Side 3, but will later proclaim himself as supreme dictator of the Principality of Zeon. After the death of Zeikum, Degwin Zabi used Zeikum's name as a tool to push the Space Noids closer towards autonomy by turning Zeon into the Principality of Zeon. Degwin was a man who sought power, but he was a calm, rational man who understood history. Now his kids, on the other hand. This is just a quick run-through of the Zabi family. I will cover all of them as we go into detail about the 1 Year War. The youngest of the children is Garma Zabi. Garma Zabi was head of his military class and classmates with Char Aznable. As a cadet, he and his classmates would later go on to lead an assault on EFF's Guardian branch. This would later be known as the Dawn Rebellion and the start of the 1-year war. It was known that Garma was Degwin's favorite son. He groomed him from birth to be the best of the Zabi family and was always by Degwin's side in the early days of the war. It wasn't until later in the war that Char gave Garma, let's say, some bad directions, which led to his demise. This led Degwin to slowly remove himself from the battlefield, giving most of the power to his eldest son, Gihren. Gihren, there's no way to put this. Gihren is Space Hitler. In fact, Degwin even gives Gihren a history lesson on Adolf Hitler, making comparisons to Hitler and Gihren. Rather than use this as a time to reflect, Gihren takes an interest in Hitler. After the death of Zeikum, Gihren is in fact responsible for the cleansing of Side 3 of all of Zeikum's loyalists. After the death of Garma, Gihren gives his infinite Sig-Zeon speech, using the death of his brother to inspire hate in the people of Zeon. He also adopted Hitler's infinite salute. Gihren would later go on to kill his father Degwin to keep the war going. After telling his sister about killing their father, Kycilia Zabi shoots and kills Gihren. Before we talk about Kycilia, let's talk about Sasuro Zabi. The end. Kycilia Zabi was in charge of Zeon's mobile suit forces during the 1-year war. Before the war, I guess she sexually assaulted young children like Casval. If you don't believe me, go watch Mobile Suit Origins. It's weird. After asserting her dominance on young Casval, Sasuro Zabi scolds her for her action. Actually, just straight up abuses her. Later, during Daikum's funeral procession, Sasuro Zabi's car explodes, killing him and wounding Dazzle Zabi in the process. It is assumed that Kycilia killed Sasuro for scolding her earlier. However, it was used as an opportunity to blame the Zeikum loyalists, a perfect plan coming from a sociopath. Her actions during the first half of the war is unknown, but was heavily involved in the last half of the war. Later, she would take a rocket to the face and die by the hands of Char Aznable. Dazzle Zabi is the Vice Admiral of the Zeon Attack Force, a counterpart to Kycilia's mobile suit force. He is a kind-hearted and courageous counterpart to the Zabi family. He is usually revered by his men and despises the family, with the exception of Garma. Dazzle awaited the day when Garma would take over. Unfortunately, that never happened. Dazzle would later die by the hands of Amuro Ray. And that is just a quick rundown of the Zabi family. As you can see, for the most part, Degwin Soto Zabi certainly did seek power, but was still a firm believer in controlism and furthering the evolution of space noids. His children, on the other hand, seemed to want absolute power and were driven by emotion. Gihren, in fact, used the ideals of controlism to inspire hate amongst his followers. He saw space noids not only as people who should be autonomous, but as people who were genetically superior. Degwin's later life seemed to be managing the drama running havoc through his family. This and the death of Garma led him to be withdrawn from the war. Nonetheless, this is the family that led an empire into a war that killed billions of humans. But that is it for us this week. Let me know who your favorite Zabi family member is. In the next video, we will be talking about Casval Rim Zeikum and his transformation into Char Aznable and his rise through the ranks of the Zeon Empire. Until then, catch you next time, Space Noids.